Hey guys, it's that guy Alex, or yeah, actually get to know me and like my stuff, Caleb Pacheco. Now, let's get into the video. And if you've already read the title, today I will be discussing the current state of the heavyweight division here in the United States. More specifically, why it's basically all but dead. So, if you guys already know, there recently Richard Torres Jr., supposedly the next great American heavyweight, was knocked out by Cuban heavyweight Frank Sanchez. And that just got me thinking, why exactly are there no heavyweight fighters from America like there were before? Why are all the fighters, current fighters, seemingly, soaring in stock and popularity and power, but all of a sudden, as soon as they get put up with an opponent from, let's say, Great Britain, Africa, South Africa, right? All of a sudden, suddenly all that stock goes away because they're knocked out within first couple of rounds, right? And that just got me thinking, why exactly is that? And well, I've come to a conclusion. And I feel like it's not a controversial conclusion. I feel like it's a conclusion that a lot of big boxing heads have already figured out and have possibly told you, and you've heard about yourself. But it's just that there's no hunger in the current state here in America. There's no want to become more than a champion, right? Because here in America, unfortunately, they are pampered. They are pampered in the heavyweight division because there is so much history surrounding the heavyweight division here in America. You got your Mike Tysons, Muhammad Ali's, Joe Frazier's, George Foreman, Rocky Marciano, who really, really put a lot of stock into the American heavyweight scene. And unfortunately, in my opinion, a lot of the newer generations of heavyweights here in America have been riding on that stock for a long time now. Especially if you look back at the early 2000s, back when there were basically no heavyweights here in America, and Vladimir Klitschko and his brother Vitaly Klitschko basically were dominating the heavyweight scene, not just here in America, but everywhere. But a lot of people thought, like, hey, it's going to be an American who's going to dethrone one of the Klitschko brothers. But what ended up happening was that a Brit named Tyson Fury, I don't know if you've heard of him, ended up defeating and decrowning the most, possibly the most dominant champion in her current heavyweight history. Now, this also goes more into depth about what promoters want for their young heavyweights. If you saw how Richard Torres was rising through the ranks, how his opponents were basically being fed to him, you'd quickly realize that as soon as he faced a more high caliber opponent, he was unfortunately going to be knocked out, especially with the way he was fighting. Really ducked down, really just like swinging into the air, hoping to land that big shot. Especially if you saw that fight with Guido Vianello. Just the size and just the reach made it really hard for Torres to just get in there and land like he usually does. Not only that, but he was just getting hit a lot. And Guido Vianello is a strong opponent, but he's not strong enough to knock out a guy like Richard Torres. And again, they are very spoiled here in America, especially in the heavyweight scene. If you saw the opponents that Torres was fighting, these guys were C or B class at most, where Torres was a former silver Olympic medalist. He was more towards A or an S tier, opponent, but he was constantly fighting B or C tier opponents. That's not to say like, oh, he should be fighting 24-0 guys as soon as no. What I'm saying is, because he was an Olympic silver medalist, he had a pedigree that he should have gone in there with and used and really tested out his experience before fighting a guy like Frank Sanchez. Frank Sanchez, he had an huge amateur record. I think it was like 265 to 4. Incredible what they do over there in Cuba with amateurs, right? But not only that, if you look at Jared Anderson, his opponents also weren't that great. You know, you had guys who were really coming up from cruiserweight, you know, gaining like an extra 20 pounds to be like 220, 230 at fight night, where Jared Anderson would come in at a natural 240 or 260. And again, these guys were, if you look at his record, a lot of cruiserweights coming up into heavyweight. And again, if you saw Jared Anderson's fight with Charles Martin, former heavyweight champion, he faced Anthony Joshua before. If you saw that fight with him, you could quickly realize that, oh, when he's in there with a real heavyweight, a real like big heavyweight who is hitting just as hard, who is just as experienced in him, and who can take a punch just like him, you realize like, whoa, he has a lot of holes in his game plan. He has a lot of holes in his defense, and he almost got knocked out. Jared Anderson almost got knocked out, I believe, in the sixth round, and then towards the end, when in the final round, Martin just was starting to really let go. He almost knocked out Anderson, but as soon as the bell rang, he stopped. He even gave a little wink towards Anderson at the end. You know, and it really sucks because I feel like his team could have taken a moment from there and really been like, maybe he's not ready. Maybe we throw him in with some more actual, less experienced, but actual heavyweights in there so we can really test him out, right? And again, back to the point of being spoiled, these guys were quickly named the new faces, the new great American heavyweight hopes that would bring the titles back here to America. And if you guys see heavyweights from other countries, Croatia, South Africa, Great Britain, you know, those guys really don't get the luxury of having those titles so quickly bestowed upon them. You know, especially Moses Atuma. Moses Atuma, my opinion, generational talent right there. 20 years old. He's younger than me. I'm 21. He's younger than me. And he's facing guys who really he shouldn't be facing, but he is. I believe his next fight is with Filip Hrgović in London for the IBF World Heavyweight title, which is insane. He's only, I believe, 12-0, and he's already fighting for a world title at 20 years old. You know, but a lot of people are still doubting him. A lot of people are saying, hey, this is too early. This is way too it's happening way too fast. You know, and that brings back to my point. You know, for American heavyweights, they're quickly put up on these pedestals that just people refuse to really look at the foundation of why they were put on these pedestals, you know? Whereas other heavyweights from other countries, they're quickly dismissed because they're not from America, or if they are from big places like France or Great Britain, it does take a little, not even a little, a lot more work for them to be really recognized as serious talents and, you know, future champions. Another reason, in my opinion, why heavyweight boxing here in America is simply just dead is because nobody wants to fight in the heavyweight division. That doesn't mean people don't want to box, but nobody really wants to fight. If you understand what I'm saying, you know, because if you're 6'6", 6'7", you know, just 6'4" and above, why would you choose a profession where you're constantly getting hit in the face, where if you do turn pro, it's not guaranteed that you're gonna make like $1 million right off the bat, you know? From an NFL standpoint, if you're 6'4", weighing 260 pounds, which sounds better for you, right? Going to the NFL, getting picked as a 250th pick, right? But still making like $900,000 as a rookie in your first year, or going pro getting hit in the face, getting possibly knocked out because these are big boys, and then maybe making like $6,000. You know, out of those two options, which one sounds better in your opinion, right? Obviously, the NFL, and even with the NBA as well. You know, if you're picked like 30th, I unfortunately don't know too much about the NBA. You know, still being signed as a rookie, you're still making a lot of money as a rookie. You know, if you're signed off, even from a lower like division team, I would say you're still making a lot of money. You're still being viewed as a potential way to like, okay, if we make him play over here for like a couple of seasons, we can maybe move him over to a more major team in which he could perform a lot better and make us and a lot more money. You know, so it's like you're being incubated for something better. Whereas the heavyweight division, it's like, oh, you know, this guy, he's 15-0. You know, he's doing great. He's knocking out his opponents. He's doing everything he's supposed to do. But as soon as you meet somebody who knocks you out or can hurt you or make you look like a regular person, all of a sudden, all that stock, all that promise that people were putting into you disappears. And it's not just heavyweights that have to deal with this. Unfortunately, a lot of other fighters in every other division, you know, they're given a lot of hype, but as soon as they're hurt or made to look human, they're not they lose that stock. They lose that stock. It also happens in the UFC. You know, if you've seen Alex Pereira get beaten, a lot of his fans after him losing don't really view him as that invincible champion anymore. They view him as like, well, yeah, it was gonna happen. It was fun while it lasted. It was fun riding the hype train. But now that he's lost, what are you gonna do? You know. Now that isn't to say that the heavyweights here in America are completely gone. No, that is not the case. You know, Joshua Edwards, former great amateur fighter, great amateur background. I believe he was a bronze or a silver medalist for the 2025 or 2026 Olympics. He's a good fighter for right now. He's doing everything right. He is slowly building up his rapport. And if you've seen some of the guys he's fighting, while not great, for his current record and for how he's doing, I think he's doing great. You know, that's a heavyweight that you should maybe look into and maybe put some stock into because he is doing great. But that's what I mean, you know. Heavyweights here in America aren't completely gone. You know, a lot of them are still boxing. A lot of them are still, you know, oh, I want a title, you know. Guys like Deontay Wilder, Andy Ruiz, you know, just guys like that who are still around can still kick it with the best, I believe. Maybe not win, but they can still kick it. And, you know, and the younger heavyweights, more like, you know, are getting there, but not to the extent that maybe their predecessors would have gone, you know. And I feel like that's gonna be the biggest issue, you know. I think a lot of heavyweight boxers here in America, they want to box. They want the money. They want the accolades, the titles, everything like that. But when it comes down to it, a lot of them don't really want to fight. They want to box. And unfortunately, the rest of the world has caught up with them. You know, a lot of heavyweight boxers from around the world not only want to box, not only want the titles, but they want to fight. They want to prove like, oh, you know, I'm the best. I come from here and I want to represent my country because I know we're from a great place. It's just that it's been misviewed or there's a lot of misconception, you know. But that hasn't only happened here in the American heavyweight scene, but it's also happened in American boxing in general. You know, you have a lot of guys from a lot of different countries, Ecuador, Colombia, you know, Uzbekistan, Russia, Dagestan, South Africa, you know, Croatia, Bosnia. A lot of these guys from countries you've probably never heard of or never really expected boxers to come from. There's a lot of boxers, up and coming, real hungry guys who are looking to make a name for themselves, who are destroying or really stopping American fighter momentum, you know? Well, and that isn't to say that they're dominating, but they are really catching up to the rest of the boxing scene here in America, you know? And I feel like that's what a lot of people don't get anymore. Boxing here in America has been not what it used to be, and the rest of the world has caught up and maybe even surpassed it in some areas and some points. Definitely the heavyweights, as I don't even think there is a top 10 heavyweight in the world today. I believe it's all just all foreign fighters. All foreign fighters, which isn't bad, but in terms of like heavyweight marketing for promoters, it is bad, you know, because like, oh, we don't have a heavyweight fighter, and if we do, he's not as popular, he's not as good, so now we're gonna have to do the promotion over here in the UK, where maybe because they're doing it in the UK, we're not gonna sell as many tickets, we're not gonna get as many pay-per-views, you know, somebody doesn't want to wake up at 4 in the morning to watch a fight which might end in like 2 rounds. And yeah, yes, there is no current American heavyweight in the top 10 as of today. It goes Alexander Usyk as number 1, Daniel Dubois as number 2, Ajay Kabayel as number 3, Murat Garcia, Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, Lawrence Oakley, Fabio Wardley, Filip Hrgovic, and Richard Rakaporki as number 10. Most of the apologies for that, the butchering of the name, but most of these are UK fighters. Most of these guys are Eastern European fighters, so you know that really tells you a lot about the heavyweight boxing scene here in America. Yeah, if you could, nah, you can't see that. But anyway, that's my video. I hope you guys enjoyed my little rant and or information here. If you guys already knew this, then comment down below telling me how much of an idiot I am. If you guys already didn't know this, you know, comment nonetheless how much of an idiot I am, because look at that. Terrible lighting. Anyway, but still appreciate the views. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment any other videos, or if you guys want to have a discussion in the comments, please, I would love to respond to them. Anyways, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, night, evening, you know, wherever you're watching. Buenos dias, buenas noches, buenas tardes, and you guys have a great day. See you guys later in the next video.